Welcome to Coach SG and Friends, where we discuss topics that help you have a better relationship with yourself and others. I am Coach SG, otherwise known as your joyful friend. I'm a relationship coach and life mentor, an entrepreneur and speaker. I'm based out of Los Angeles, but originally from Brooklyn, New York. I love great music, deep conversations, and inspiring people to live their best emotional lives and create their most amazing love story. Let me introduce you to my two friends, Janessa Rose and Lisa Miranda. Janessa is the CEO of Motivational Monsters, a nonprofit that helps people activate mental health and emotional well-being through creative arts. She is the author of How to Stop Being an Effing Bum. BUM stands for Broken Urban Mentality. She's been dubbed the Tony Robbins / Cardi B of motivational speakers, and she calls herself the Galactic Goddess. Lisa Miranda is an actor and creative director. She's also dabbling in producing. She is based in Miami, New York, and Paris. She is a world traveler who speaks several languages, who loves life, good people, and good conversation. So we want to welcome you to our podcast. Let's get started. Welcome, ladies. Welcome back. So we've got a new episode today, and we are talking about dismantling the cycle of guilt, blame, and revenge in relationships. So as usual, we're just trying to remove roadblocks for people and share our lessons and our blessings. We are not necessarily masters at everything, even though I am a relationship coach. I just believe we're not masters at everything. I'm still learning and growing. We're all learning and growing. So this is really about us sharing what we've learned so far and what we believe. So what do you guys think? How can we dismantle the cycle of guilt, blame, and revenge in relationships?
I was thinking about the fact that if we grow up with the idea that we have to please other people, which I did, that I could deal with being sad or being hurt, but I really shouldn't hurt other people. Having that belief, has made it tremendously easy to take on a whole bunch of weight that's totally unnecessary and unhealthy. So I think it really starts with how you see yourself, how you're raised, looking at who you are in terms of how much things you carry that don't necessarily belong to you. Because if you're already used to feeling responsible for other people in your home, from your childhood or your upbringing, and then it's easy to transfer that into adult relationships. Because I always thought I needed to feel pain in order to let go of something, or to fully take responsibility, I needed to hurt. And that was like a very hard way to live. And it's still like I have to tell myself, no, it doesn't really have to it doesn't have to be that real. It doesn't have to be so painful.
Right. I love that. And I agree. I believe that however we were raised and however we learned to have relationships growing up, we just keep, recreating it.
As soon as she mentioned the growing up part, I thought of how I was raised was more of like punish you. Like, oh, so you're not acting right, you're gonna get punished. And even if this is over, even if you're gonna be the one who suffers, not me, type thing, like somehow. And that had a lot to do with how I created relationships. It was always the idea of it didn't allow me to take responsibility for anything that I brought to the table, whether it was good or bad. It was just like, I'm the girl, I'm the best, you're the messed up one in the situation somehow, and that's not fair. And that kind of like stuck with me for a while. So for me personally, I dismantled, or the idea and the concept of dismantling that was really being a little bit more conscious of why I'm acting the way I'm acting, why things are resulting the way that they're resulting. So that way I didn't have to be mean or feel like this person needed to suffer for me, because it was more of a like, no matter what went wrong, it was your fault. And
Right.
you must suffer for that. but I started to see myself in that as well. Like there must have been some way, whether I'm aware of it or not, that I've also caused some sort of a result in this.
How do you dismantle it if you're used to doing it all the time?
Well, really, what it is, it's a tactic. I realized that a lot of people use guilt as a way to keep people stuck into circumstances. Like, for instance, people who aren't ready to break up. Sometimes shit could be going awry. The relationship can be falling apart, and it's like a blind man can see that this is not going anywhere. But somebody might be constantly reminding the other person, like, "All I've been through with you, all I've done, all of this you put me through." And this is a form and a tactic in a way, in a sense, to keep the person stuck to or feeling obligated, like they have to return some sort of a favor by staying in the relationship, even though they're miserable, even though the things don't work, even though you're obviously unhappy. And so I look at guilt, let's just speak about, this is me really talking about guilt as a tactic to keep one in a relationship, which is really not in love. This is the thing people say sometimes. They're like, well, I love them, I want to keep them, but I'm keeping them by using guilt or shame or some other type of thing to make them submissive, or not even submissive, but just to stay in the circumstance. So for me, some of these things are used as tactics to keep people in control, under your control.
Right.
Yeah.
And I would
Yeah.
agree with that. I think that, guilt is really about like, you want somebody to feel bad for what they've done to you. And, what you were mentioning before, it's like, yes, it's manipulative, but I want to make sure that people can hear what we're saying, because you may be right in that you've stood by them, you've done all kinds of crap for them, and you feel like, yeah, I've done all these things and I want you to acknowledge it. But I think making them feel guilty about it is manipulation, because it's about putting it in a right and wrong box. People are where they are emotionally, and we have to do our best to have compassion about where people are. We want people to do things our way. I'm that way too. I don't like when people do things different than how I do it, because I feel like I see it. It's easy. It's plain to see, but we all have different experiences. We just mentioned how, like, being in a relation, our relationship with our parents, or, growing up, has shaped how we have relationships now. So to make this assumption that people are going to move the way we move and going to do everything the way we do it, and we take everything, personally, and then we want to guilt or manipulate them into changing their behavior, doesn't allow them to have their emotional progress, I think, or to do it the way, there's some learnings they've got to go through, and we want them to do it on our time, at our pace, how we want it done. And it's just, it doesn't allow them to be an individual, I think.
Absolutely.
I feel like there's a lot of denial sometimes when you're trying to get someone to feel a certain kind of way. Maybe it's not being very clear about who you are and what you want, and having that awareness to know it's okay, that it's it's going to be fine, even if the situation, even if you can't manipulate the situation. I don't mean manipulate in a bad way, but I mean like in a control, like this is the way I want it to go. But being able to let go a little bit, it just brings so much more peace. And as somebody who grew up thinking like this kind of suffering or taking responsibility is virtuous, like I felt very good about saying, okay, this big piece was mine. Even if I took a bigger piece, it took all of it. So I think just kind of like letting go of whichever end that that you have the habit of, but you can't do it until you start really doing some reflection, because you start to see patterns. You start to see, things that you've been sweeping under the rug. You start, what does this say about who I am and how I've been operating before? Then you have a real chance at changing the way that you operate.
I love the way you shaped all that too. And I think, when we think about guilt, we think about putting guilt on people, but not also holding on to a lot of guilt. Maybe we made some some had some transgressions, because we did the best that we could at that time, and we've done some things to people, and we hold on to this guilt and feel like we have to do all these things because we made a mistake at one time. But we've got to let people off the hook, and we've got to let ourselves off the hook, because it shapes how we behave, and it shapes how we move forward in our relationship.
That's so true. Shame also is another way that shame and revenge, not to skip anything, but the revenge part is something that people keep in relationships too, like, because that's what you're saying, like letting you off the hook and letting other people off the hook. We'll be like, yeah, all right, it's okay, we're gonna be in the relationship still, but there's like constant ways that you could like dig at somebody, like, you know what, I remember that time, February 29th, February. Here's a common one. You know, I'm out for the day, and then all of a sudden somebody like gives you a compliment. You know what I mean? And you like, you know what? They cheated on me 2 years ago, February 4th. I'm gonna, I'm gonna take this compliment, and you know what? I'm gonna give my number out, or
Right.
stuff like that. People do that, and these are tiny little things that revenge powers, that energy of revenge, because it's not so much that you're like meaningful. Like if you got caught doing something like that, you're not gonna be like, well, yeah, I did that because or whatever. But deep down inside, that's the type of energy that's powering your choices moving forward. And it's because you really haven't let yourself off the hook, or let that person off the hook, or whatever it is. It's that energy that comes in and have take a little. Oh, I got a little baby sword here. This is like save you from last week. But take a jab at them because you're upset deep down inside. You haven't let go of that or clean that energy out.
You feel justified in it.
Yeah, there we go. There we go.
I had a situation, we'll talk about from the babe back in the past, but I had a situation where, and I don't know if I think I talked to you about it, just Janessa, yesterday, but I had a situation where I walked in on a conversation. I surprised, whoever I was dating at work, and I, they didn't know I was there, and I was trying to surprise them, and I was behind them, and I heard them on the phone, talking to somebody, saying how much they missed them and couldn't wait to see them. And I was there to surprise them, and I got a surprise mode. And my whole body just did something different. Like there was heat, I just was like, how did I miss this? And instead of taking that as a blessing and alignment, and I was at the right place at the right time, I took it personal. I felt like, how dare you? And I was on my revenge mode. And I did a bunch of different things that, afterwards I didn't feel great about. It didn't fix the issue. It didn't fix the pain of knowing that the person that I trusted, was having another relationship with somebody that was in our circle. But it produced my own karma. So I didn't really want to do these things, and I was I think I even was with somebody they were with before. I just did crap just to be like, just to get them back, but it doesn't ever turn out well.
You see, this is the one thing we fail to realize. Here I go with my universal law, the law of oneness. We are all connected. So ultimately, what we do to another that doesn't serve them doesn't ultimately serve ourselves. And what happens is when we're hurt, we hurt ourselves. When we're hurting somebody else, that when the intent is powered by revenge or hurting someone else or wanting to see somebody else as hurt as you were, doesn't ultimately serve us. It's just it goes against that first law.
I agree with you. I also think at that time I didn't understand my needs. So I didn't understand to look at my emotions and to figure out what I was feeling and to take care of that. Yeah. I got right into reaction to what was happening. But if I had stopped for a moment and I said, you know what, this feels crappy, and it's okay for it to feel crappy, normal people would probably feel crappy in this situation. What do I really need at this moment to nurture myself? If I did that instead, but that's not what I was used to. That's not what I was taught. So I went right into reaction mode. And it's not until you get into enough pain or enough, like, you're in situations you really, that's not really what your path was, that you start to, want to change your behavior. But I had to go through all kinds of crap first. And then I never really healed it. I moved on to another relationship, and then it starts to compound, and not that I was revengeful to that person, but I still never learned how to fix, how to heal myself. I just went, I just was reactive all the time.
But I had a time when I was seeing someone and their ex sent me the most disgusting email. It was just, it was like every kind of insult from me to where I come from. It was just nonstop, right? Really comprehensive. And I just happened to be on my way to a meditation retreat the next day. So I get this message and I'm like, okay, and my mind is like, there's a million ways to react, really clever ways, really like a lot of different ways to punish this person, right? And I'm very, very creative, and I did not, right? So I'm at my meditation retreat and I'm just like fighting it. And after like, it took maybe 4.5 days before I could kind of like let go and not sit all day, because you're not doing anything all day thinking about coming with great ways to get revenge, really clever. So I could write a book on all the great ideas that they came up.
Right.
But what happened is, at day 5, I felt like kind of free of it. But then weird stuff started happening to me at my retreat. So like one day I come to the bed and it's like covered in like bugs or just kind of like dead insects. It was just I called up my partner. I was like, you see this? That crazy ass person put a curse on me. I might not make it out alive. He was so worried. The next day, he was like, he didn't know if I had died. He called the retreat center. It was just all kinds of bad stuff. I had to go sleep in a meditation hall. So I guess what I'm wondering is, even though I did not seek revenge, and to this day, I never did anything to that person, even though I could, I guess, did this process of letting go also infect me further? Well, right? Because I must have created all of that kind of stuff, right?
Yes. So everything that's in your experience, you're a match to. So I think what was happening is that you just said it took 4 days for it to get out of your vibration, right? So it's in your energy already. So even though you didn't react to her, in email or whatever, it was still in your vibration. So you probably were like, this little bit, this little, don't know who she's talking to, you probably was feeling all that. You had to get yourself back down. So the bugs in the bed was really just a sign of like things are, that something's bugging you, right? It's not really so profound. It was that something was bugging you and it's in your vibration and you had to get that stuff out of there.
So when you don't seek revenge, but you can still infect your mind to a capacity where you gotta, where you live some kind of consequence, no?
And then I'll let Janessa chime in too. One is behavior and one is energy. So it's different, So one is the revenge. If you're actually going to do something, that's behavior. The other one is just energy. So we don't work on our energy first. We trying to work on behavior and action and that kind of thing to get it fixed. But where we have to fix first is our energy before we fix
alignment.
Anything else. Yeah.
Perfect the way she said it, right? So Lisa, this is the key. The attraction was the bugs. You attracted the bugs. You're basically saying, because I'm going to talk like in energy, right? So the law of attraction is really like the secondary result. The first is the frequency, the energetic level. So that's why what Sherelle is trying to tell you is, it doesn't matter what you attract. If you're vibrating low, you could have been in paradise and something would have happened because you was already in the frequency of low. things because it bothered you, it egged you on, some you were just not, you didn't feel good, you didn't feel aligned in your harmony. So you could only attract something or create something within that frequency. So it was something that had to disturb you. So although you didn't act on what was, messing with you and had you energetically low, the universe still, like, the way it works subconsciously, is still comes up with something to frustrate you furthermore, to have something to justify why you're feeling this way. You know what I'm
But
saying?
sometimes, can I add to it too?
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like those things are a blessing because it took your focus. If you were just sitting there and meditating, trying to get through it, but now you got into action about some stuff. Like there's like, oh my God, there's bugs in here. I got things that will give us some solaces that no one can create anything in our experience. So even if they got a curse, they got a whatever, it is your own experience. They can't force anything into your experience. So the fact that the bugs were there, it wasn't a curse, that she put on you. It was your thinking, it was your point of attraction, and it was just a sign that there's some things that were bugging you. So let's talk about this, because I think what's hard is that when you're in the moment of, like, let's say there's a situation like that where Lisa was talking about, where somebody has decided they want to spend their time blaming you and putting you down about something that you have no effect over. How does one in that situation not want to seek revenge?
Not want to?
Well, so here's the thing. Like, I would tell you, I had a situation with, where my office is. Before in the off where I have my office, is that there was two offices down there, but the other unit was vacant for a while. So when I first got my office, I got it so I can, see people and all that. But, it was COVID. So nobody's seeing anybody. So I used it for other things, and I put it on peer space to have parties and all that. So, and it was a lucrative thing for me to do. Well, when the guy moved in next door, now I have to be mindful of someone else. We have a shared lobby, but we don't share the same space. So I had a party, but wait, before I had the party, there was an issue with the building, and I already know the property management team is how they are. So I don't let them bug me, right? He wanted me to call the property management team on his behalf because we share a space about something that was going on with the building. And I told him, why don't you just call them and tell them this? And he was like, I called them and they won't help. Okay, so why don't you call? There was an issue with plumbing. So I was like, why don't you call a plumber and then take it off your lease? No, he needed to have them take care of this issue. He was losing sleep. He was angry. He was bitter. He was fighting. And he wanted me to help him. And because when I talked to him, I thought, I don't want to be associated with that energy. I just don't. We either want to be in the solution or we want to be in the problem. I let him know what the facilities manager's number was, and he didn't want that way. He wanted, I want you to call him and, whatever. So I didn't do it. So because I didn't do it, he was angry at me. So now that I had a party at the space, he was going off. He called the property management team. Wow. He was doing all this stuff. But so I said all that to say that I could have been revengeful, and I could have been like, because I did feel that way at first. But I just thought, like, I'm not going to allow him to control my vibration. He's angry. He's whatever. I have brought this experience into my life for whatever reason. So what do I need to do right now to feel okay? And I had to just ignore him. I just answered the question because he was like, well, how long are people going to be here? I'm thinking to myself, I don't answer to you. I said, they're going to be there as long as they need to be, but let me know if there's an issue. I wasn't unkind. I wasn't, trying to say who's right and you don't need to tell me whatever. I just said, they're going to be there as long as they're supposed to be there or want to be there. If there's an issue, let me know. Because anything else is not his business. Oh my God, he was beside himself.
Oh my God.
But able to sleep and I was able to move forward. It doesn't mean it stopped the problem necessarily, but I just thought I'm not going to give my attention to somebody who is unbalanced, because I'm the balanced one, right? I'm the one that's meditating. I'm the one that's doing the work. I'm the one that's the example. I'm the one that wants to, inspire, empower. I can't do that if I'm, who the fuck you think you talking
But I
to?
have a
And I don't
question.
owe you nothing. You ain't on my lease.
But there's
But
a
go
lot
ahead.
of people. But there's a lot of people, when you ignore them, all that does is make them raise their antics. So how do you then change your energy if they just get bigger and bigger? It's like being in high school and someone wants to fight you and your mom says ignore them. It's
Well,
never worked to ignore them.
right.
Now you have
Well,
to,
go ahead, Janessa.
no, because, all right, so first and foremost, you can't control the energy outside of self. If a person is up in their antics, now they're more louder, more disrespectful, more hurtful to you. You have to remove your energy from the thing. You don't have to listen to them. You don't have to be there. You have, like she's trying to say, sir, I answered this question because he asked me a question. I don't want to be rude, so I'll answer it the best that I can. Sorry that it's not, I don't know what to tell you about how you processing what I'm saying.
Right.
It's done. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Can't help you with that. Waste of
Right.
my energy. And I know, I'm aware, I'm conscious enough to know that I'm not in control of the energy outside of self. So I don't know how you process that. You do it, what you color that dragon, whatever you want to color it, but this is what it is. And you remove yourself. Now with the, as a kid, as you just said that, for those who are in that vibe, somebody touches you, you gotta whoop their ass. No, sorry. Like if somebody touches you, that's a different thing because now you're in self-defense, right? But if somebody's picking on you and things like that, energetically or just with words and then you got to remove yourself. As an adult, you got to be wise enough to be like, listen, it's not important that I'm right. It's not important that I hurt this person, because that's what it is. Usually when we feel attacked, whether it's our ego, it's, you got to remember the ego is coming to play. Yo, they don't know who you are. They don't know who they talking to. They don't know who they shit right now. Or they don't know how you dragged them in here. Like, these are my thoughts. I be like, oh,
But you know what? Bullying has become such a prominent issue for so many people because it's so hard to energetically remove yourself, right? Like, how do you, even now with social media, or you see people at school? It's not like, it's like Sherelle's example. It's an office she doesn't have to go to all the time. But if you can't, if that's where you work and those are your colleagues, or you know what I'm saying, how do you energetically say, let me back up before you build the rage and you hurt you.
I think it's one step at a time, because there isn't like one way, because every situation is different. And like Janessa was saying, if it's an emergency type situation where somebody's in your family, you feeling harmed, I would say, taking care of yourself. But everything is not emergency situation. And our ego and our pride and, just how we handle things. I mean, where I grew up, you don't let anybody talk to you crazy. That's just not how that works. You got to let people know what your boundaries are. But I don't think everything has to end in a fight. And I think what he was trying to do is he was trying to make me do something. So of course he's going to escalate, because he's like, I need you to do this thing. So you're not going to do it. I'm going to push more and I'm going to push more. But he's not in front of me. He's not in my face. So I just ignored him. Like, and then after a while, when you ignore people who are trying, I mean, they can only fight with themselves. So he left me alone. I don't talk to him.
a really good thing that I learned is this: when people are upping their antics and their tactics to get you upset, or their manipulation, whatever it is, now you're forcing them to look at themselves, because at the same time we're all the same, right? No matter how much we're not in control of each other's energies, it was still the same. We process things kind of similar. So it's like, if you're gonna start throwing tantrums and getting crazy and creating more ways for you to get me to move according to how you want me to move, you're gonna eventually start asking yourself, like, what the fuck is wrong with me?
Mm.
Why am I like, eventually you're causing them to look at parts of themselves that hopefully they'll heal. If not, they'll just transfer that energy into another form and to get a supply or reaction from someone else. But it won't be you. And like, you gotta remember, like, how they're processing it and how they're handling it is not your business. You can't even spend energy on it.
The other thing about it is kind of like when we you know the whole thing with the cops is and how they're asserting themselves on Black folks is that what we're supposed to learn and what you're supposed to learn in that kind of a position is that you've got to learn how to de-escalate the situation. So if the focus is about de-escalating the situation, not in letting people know that you ain't the one, that's a whole nother, now you're fighting, now it's ego to ego instead of it being like, because I really want to tell him the hell off. But I'm thinking I'm a coach. I have a coach. No, I'm thinking I want to be a good example. I no matter what anybody's doing, I want to be loving and I want to be inspirational. That doesn't mean that people get to take advantage of me. So I did what I felt was best in that situation. I gave him the information he wanted. I didn't, totally ignore him. And then when he said, wow, I didn't respond because however he chose to take it is how he chose to take it. I felt like I wasn't unkind. I wasn't, trying to be a jerk, but I let him know what my boundaries are. This is my business. This isn't your business. I don't ask you who's going into your space, so you don't get to ask me who's going to be in my space and how long they're going to be there.
Just said something about de-escalation and you said with the police, but you're saying when the police come, it's still our job to de-escalate ourselves, but they're called
No,
when
no, I was saying that when you're in that kind of a position, like I felt like I'm responsible for the position I'm in. I'm a coach. I want to inspire people. I'm here to serve. I feel like if I was a cop, that would be my vision too. I'm here to de-escalate the situation, not make people afraid. I'm here to protect and serve. So I'm here to de-escalate the situation, not to make it worse. That's what I meant. But, I think on the other end is that, the other part is that we've got to be able to discern where people are. Like, I understood that this guy was a little bit, not crazy. I don't want to say crazy because that's judgment, right? He didn't know how to handle this differently. Even though that's not my problem, I didn't want to do anything that was going to escalate the situation even more, that he's obviously doesn't know how to manage his emotions and he's in a bad place. So I don't need to be forceful with him. I can just still be kind without, letting him know that I still have boundaries, My joyful friends, we have come to the end of this episode. Don't forget to check out next week's episode. We appreciate you listening and would love your feedback. So drop a comment below and don't forget to hit subscribe.